Check the mic, we're going live. Stories told, they rise and dive. Topics fresh with every spin. You won't guess what's coming in. Every week a new surprise. Minds awake, never lies. Conversations bold and free. Tune in now, just wait and see. This podcast is uncalled for. Catch us here, there's so much more. Laughs and tales you can't ignore. A journey that will leave you floored. In the night or in the day, just press play, we're on our way. Voices sharp, opinions bright.
All right, everybody, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to our Snowed In 2026 edition of the podcast. We are about to be snowed in on Friday, January 23rd, 2026. And I have preemptively put the call out for interviews. And so far we've got a couple scheduled for this special program. We'll see about getting some more. But in the meantime, we're going to start with me talking. So this is thoughts on Star Trek. As you all know, if you are a regular listener to the podcast, you know I'm a massive Trekkie. And specifically the idea that Star Trek is all of a sudden has gone woke. So what the hell am I talking about here, woke? So of course, Star Trek. This is the 60th year since Star Trek started. So that's pretty fun to think about that it all started 60 years ago. But let's be honest, when Star Trek went woke was pretty much from the very beginning. It's always been woke, you know. And I'm bringing this up now because there's a controversy. So about wokeness, you have these conservative politicians saying, "Oh, can we bring back Bill Shatner because we feel that Star Trek has gone woke and everything." To which Shatner replied, "Well, I'm seeing people in this new series, the Starfleet Academy series, wearing glasses. So haven't we fixed eyesight yet?" Number one. Number two, Shatner has a couple things that, aside from being an actor, and in his 90s, William Shatner is two things that these right-wing pundits haven't really stopped to consider. Yes, the character of James T. Kirk is, a stereotypical white guy out of Iowa and everything. But first of all, Shatner's Canadian, right? Born in Montreal. Sorry, not just a Canadian city, but a French-Canadian city. And number two, and I hate to bring religion into this, but most of these guys that are doing the yapping are evangelical types, pseudo-Christians. And I do say pseudo because they certainly don't act like Christ would have wanted them to act. But, Shatner's Jewish. So, consider that. And we're talking about the first guy. The first guy who was a regular captain on that show. All right. So William Shatner, probably not the best guy to try to inject into modern Trek. And once again, the man's in his 90s. Okay? But as it revolves around modern Trek, So I'm reading the Facebook post of Daniel Aronson, sci-fi and fantasy author, and it reads simply: Gina Yashiri, star of Star Trek Starfleet Academy, lashes out against white misogynists who dislike the show. She posted online, the entire cast is a damn good mix. We woke as hell over here. So woke. Incredible woke. Woker woke. Wokey woke. A cacophony of woke. This particular actress broke new ground on Star Trek, being the first actress to portray a female Jem'Hadar. So her character, for those who haven't been watching Star Trek, and certainly not this Starfleet Academy, which I do highly recommend, by the way. It's a different angle at the Star Trek universe, but her character is her father was Jem'Hadar. For those not Trekkies, the Jem'Hadar are a genetically modified race. They're basically thugs for the Dominion throughout DS9, and they are all male and all drug addicted. But her mother is Klingon, so she's a hybrid of Jem'Hadar and Klingon, and that's kind of talking about what we're talking about here. And by the way, this is the baddest ass character in that new series. She's basically the drill instructor. So, lower decks of train duty, and very British. Lower decks of train duty, 6 months of interspecies vomit cleanup, and 200 push-ups. No, I said no, god damn it. But if you start thinking about Star Trek, has always been woke. So let's think about the late 60s, when Star Trek first became a thing. Yes, you had James T. Kirk. Yes, you had Leonard McCoy, Southern gentleman, as the Doctor. And yes, you had Spock. We're talking about hybrids there, half Vulcan, half human. I think his presence on that bridge alone would justify what I'm talking about. But it doesn't end there, because we had Scotty, the Scotsman engineer, played by a Canadian, by the way. And once again, does not stop there. You had Uhura, played by Nichelle Nichols, who was African American and a woman, holding a senior position on the bridge at a time when you had the civil rights movement was in full effect, and the treatment of women even then was quite misogynistic, but in comparison to today. And there was actually a point where she wanted to quit the show, but she was talked out of it by none other than Martin Luther King Jr. himself. So think about that. All right, you had Hikaru Sulu. I'll talk more about the name in just a little bit. A Japanese American man, George Takei, who's still very much alive and not quite 90 yet, but he's getting there. Oh, and it's not explicitly touched on in Star Trek, but in real life, George Takei also happens to be gay and is happily married to another man. So there's that. Now, talk a little about the name. So I just looked up the name because Sulu, the letter L does not appear in Japanese. So the closest you're going to get to Japanese there is Suru. Suru means to do in Japanese. So that's kind of cool. So I think that's the dictionary form of to do. You'll most likely hear informal speech, shimasu, to do. No, the name Sulu came from a body of water called the Sulu Bay that borders Borneo and the Philippines. And Roddenberry suggested that name. So, let's do a Pan-Asian name and just throw a dart at the map. And that's how I came up with. And the fact that Takei himself happens to be of Japanese descent. And Hikaru is a common Japanese name. Of course, nowadays you'll hear mostly in association with Hikaru Nakamura, who is a Japanese American chess grandmaster. So, and chess has its DNA in Star Trek from the very beginning too. And then you have Chekhov, another actor who's still with us, Walter Koenig, and his character was Russian. Kind of odd to think about it now, but also keep in mind, late 60s, we're in the middle of the Cold War between the U.S. and the Soviet Union, and he didn't show up till the second season, but still, that is kind of significant that one day in the future we'll forget our differences based on our nationalities and come together and work together. And you kind of see that now with the International Space Station. That could be another episode altogether. But just in the main bridge crew of the original series, you're seeing diversity. And that only compounds itself in future series. I mean, TNG, you have a blind man driving the ship the first season, and then he gets transferred to engineering. So you have a blind man running the ship's engines. You have an android as your as a member of your crew, and you have a Klingon as a key member of your crew. The Klingons in the original series were the bad guys. They were an allegory for the Soviet Union. But come TNG, they were able to kind of put their differences aside, and that's how you get Worf on the bridge of the Enterprise, and that's how you get Michael Dorn as with the most appearances as a single character in Star Trek. So, and that's how he also gets the exploration into Klingon culture beyond just let's fight the Federation and everything. That's where you get the cultural references, like they're liking to eat gach. Gach is always best to conserve life, and that's how you get into their concept of honor, the Bushido. That's how you get into their martial arts and everything. DS9, African American captain. Voyager, woman captain. And then this holiday of diversity and everything trickles down once again even to more modern stuff that we're seeing today. So yay for diversity. Star Trek also had the first interracial kiss ever on television, the first major one between Kirk and Uhura. The episode is called Plato's Stepchildren, which would have been the third season. It's a weird one, but involves aliens with telekinetic abilities who are big fans of Plato and ancient Greece, and wanted to use their powers for their own amusements, and their own amusement involved making the Enterprise crew do stupid things. And also in the third season, we have let that be your last battlefield. So, so you may have seen the photos of the two aliens. One is completely black on one side of his face and white on the other, and the other guy is just the opposite. By which I mean the colors on the opposite sides. Well, these two guys and their societies hated each other for that. Well, he's different from me just because of the way he looks, and that is very much an allegory for racism. A problem we still have to this day. In fact, I would argue that the whole teabag MAGA thing. We can actually prove this with the teabaggers. They started because a black man was elected president. So, all right, give me a sec. I need to take care of something real quick. I'll be right back. Alright, we're back. So, yeah, we're talking about Star Trek being woke and everything. So, okay, so continue with our notes here. For special shout out to Google AI for putting this information together for me. So, strong female leadership, yeah, even in TOS. In this case, I'd refer you more to the very first pilots, The Cage, with the late Majel Barrett Roddenberry, number one. And once again, shout out to current Trek, Strange New Worlds, Rebecca Romaine, now playing that same character, who we now know is named Una Chin Riley, and giving more depth to that character. And Strange New Worlds, by the way, majority female cast, despite Captain Pike and Spock being there. So yay! And shout out to Pike's lady friends. Let's have a couple of cocksucking gin and tonics in her honor. And of course, Catherine Janeway, first female captain. Yeah, that's not until Voyager, but still a lot of female sci-fi fans, especially feminists, love Catherine Janeway, and honestly, I don't blame them. So, yeah, we have an economic system that's I want to say, well, post scarcity will say they don't see the need for money that we have right now, and everyone is provided for. Of course, there are some extensions like the Ferengi, the Ferengi being the model of a capitalist society within Star Trek. They're a society that you have to pay like a slip of latinum just to have a seat, waiting to see whoever you're trying to talk to and everything. And of course, they're quite misogynistic too. Right? This was a society that said women can't speak to men and can't wear clothes and can't make profit. And here's Quark's mother doing exactly that. So that's other to consider. So maybe that's woke too. Of course, anti-war messaging. Remember, the original series came out during the height of Vietnam, which was a very unpopular war, and we've had plenty of conflicts in the 6 years since. So yeah. Now that's the AI specific examples of woke in the original Trek. So it provided me two that I already mentioned, Let That Be Your Last Battlefield and Plato's Stepchildren. On the issue of race inequality, it also brings up the Savage Curtain. This is when the alien version of Abe Lincoln shows up. Turns out he's part of a species of rock creatures, the Excalbians, who want to understand good and evil. So their idea of good and evil is, yeah, let's team up Abe Lincoln with Surak, the father of the Vulcan, who was essentially the father of their philosophy of logic and emotional suppression. Let's say that with Kirk and Spock, and on the other side, let's include remember the Klingons were bad guys in the original series. Kalish. That's the first time we hear about that guy in Star Trek. You know, he's basically the Moses of the Klingon people, right? And they fight out class and socioeconomics. So they list 2 episodes from the 3rd season, both of which I highly recommend. One's called The Cloud Minders, rather. The elites live in a city that's elevated above their planet on clouds, and they look down upon the miners down below who have to mine this substance that causes them to act a little crazy, and everything's yeah. That's a good example of the classified. And by the way, I believe Fred the Hammer Williamson played one of the miners in that episode. Former Chiefs player turned actor. So Travis Kelce, this is your future. Seems like. The Mark of Gideon is another one that they suggest. This is about Kirk being captured by a alien race, put on a exact duplicate of the Enterprise, and being stranded there with this girl who, something. Quite a brilliant illusion, because the rest of the planet is so overpopulated that you literally have no elbow room. And their logic was, well, Kirk is carrying this disease with him, so let's kidnap him and use his blood to infect all of our people and see how many of them die off. So yeah. Anti-war and anti-imperialism, it lists a private little war. I would say this episode is probably the closest you'll get to an allegory on Vietnam in Trek. It's also where we got the Mugadus, the apes with the big horn on their heads. And this one involves Klingons as well, because Klingons were supplying one faction on this primitive planet with flintlock rifles, and trying to swage the balance of power out of there. So, A Taste of Armageddon, it lists as a example. So this is 2 warring planets, but they're not fighting with conventional wars. No, they're fighting with computers. And its computer says this particular city has been hit. Everyone that was in that part of town, go to the suicide booth. And I guarantee you that's where Futurama came up with the idea for suicide booths to kick off that series. You are now dead. Thank you for using whatever. And the last one they mentioned for anti-war, anti-imperialism happens to be my favorite episode in all of TOS, and that is Day of the Dove. Klingons and the Enterprise crew are forced to fight each other with swords to feed this non-corporeal entity with all the anger. He needs to be strong and influence everyone. And it really doesn't. And it ends because Kirk and Kang, the Klingon commander, decide, you know what? If we want to free our crews, and everything, we gotta get this entity off of our ship, and it's feeding on our shared hatred of one another. So let's just fake it till we make it, and they decide to act all jovial, and that succeeds in driving this thing off of the ship. Like, you know what? No, yeah, we do dislike each other, but we're making a conscious effort right now to just not today. Not today. Let's be friends today. Gender and social issues. We mentioned the cage earlier. He also mentions Turnabout Intruder. The last episode of the original series, by the way, Kirk gets body swiped with a female scientist who, by the way, is insane. And credit to Shatner for portraying the insanity, not necessarily being, but they're saying, well, just because you're a woman, that mean you're insane. So this one clearly problematic and clearly quite sexist. I mean, it is still the 60s, after all. And mentions the Devil in the Dark. That's the Horta episode. This non-human creature killing all these miners because they happened to come across and kill plenty of her offspring, or future offspring. They're just eggs at this point. Alright. But there's one episode that the AI didn't particularly ask about that I think needs to be brought up. As late season 2 of the original series. The episode is called Patterns of Force and deals with Nazis. Like literal Nazis. The setup is the Enterprise is looking for this Starfleet Academy professor who disappeared in that sector, and you have two planets fighting each other. And it turns out one of the planets, the one that's influenced by this particular professor, became Nazi Germany. And the other planets, they are an allegory for the displaced Jews that were so very much a Nazi Germany World War II parallel and everything. I'll read directly what the AI says here. So the Star Trek original series episode Patterns of Force is widely considered woke by modern standards because of its overt social commentary on fascism, racism, and the powers and the dangers of absolute power. While some viewers in 26 interpret its message through a modern lens, its core themes were deeply progressive for 1968. Critique of fascism. Let me repeat that again. Critique of fascism. It features a direct allegory for the Holocaust with the Zeons, their clear stand-in for the Jews, like I said, being persecuted as vermin by the Nazi-inspired Ecosians. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the racism part, condemnation of racism. So the allegory of the Zeons and the being treated like vermin by the Ecosians, that's the condemnation of racism. So I'll go back to Critique of Fascism. The episode serves as a chilling parable about the totalitarian temptation showing how even a benevolent attempt to use Nazi-style efficiency leads inevitably to genocide and oppression. If anyone in the MAGA cult is listening, that's you. Anti-authoritarian message. The episode warns that absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yes, it does, and we're seeing that in real time here in the States. And that any system built on unquestioning obedience to a single leader, Donnie, is inherently dangerous regardless of the leader's initial intentions. And moral responsibility highlights how ordinary citizens become complicit in atrocities through silence and inaction, a recurring theme of a progressive social justice discourse. Historical controversy. The episode is so bold that was banned in Germany until 1995 because of the overt Nazi depictions. And alternative interpretations, while many see it as woke, some critics argue it is fundamentally conservative because it critiques the concentration of power itself, warning that even well-meaning governments can attract those who would misuse that power. Others find it crass and simplistic by 26 standards for focusing the blame on the few evil men rather than systemic issues. You mean systemic issues that Reagan introduced by chance? And all that? Well, this was way before Reagan, of course. We're talking the 60s, so we're near the end of LBJ and at the start of Nixon. For further context, the professor in question was drugged as his deputy that was abusing power and turned them into full-blown Nazis. And at the end of the episode, they revive, briefly, because he winds up getting killed. They revive the professor. He's like, yeah, my deputy here, yeah, he's the guy who drugged me, and yeah, he's a big traitor, and this is not how I wanted all to go down. So he gets killed, and then the deputy gets killed, and the survivors all decide amongst themselves, this is bullshit. We can do better. All right. So yeah, Star Trek has always been woke, and if you're on the right and you haven't got that message yet, I would highly recommend opening your mind and doing some damn research about that before spouting off about, oh, it's all woke now, it's all woke and lame, blah, blah, blah. Oh, F that, man. So, woke from the beginning, and probably you could say even more woke with each passing iteration. I mean, remember TNG, you had a Klingon, remember, sworn enemies of the Federation, was on that crew. You had an android on that crew. You had a blind man on that crew. All right. DS9, you had a black man running the station. You had a woman as first officer. You had a Trill, and the Trill are interested in that they could be seen as a mirror towards LGBT issues. So you have that. You have a Ferengi bartender. You have a changeling as their chief of security, and the problems his people caused in another part of the galaxy. Everything. Voyager, woman captain, Native American first officer. Yeah, you rescued a Borg, and some other stuff, and of course lizard babies. Let's be real there. And then jump to Discovery, and Discovery, it really goes heavy with the LGBT. Like, we see you, we acknowledge you, and all that. And I give them credit for that too. So diversity and tolerance and all that has been in their DNA forever. So by that definition, if that's woke, then it's always been woke, and I'm glad to be a fan of it. And I'm glad I at least take the time to understand the messaging behind it. So, with all that said, this podcast is Uncalled For. It is hosted, produced, and edited by a Trekkie by the name of Mike Chernevsky. Our opening music and our closing music for the Snowed In series was created at Suno.com, SUNO.com. Remember, infinite diversity and infinite combinations. May you live long and prosper.
Please support the podcast and purchase our exclusive Uncalled For merchandise. T-shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, stickers, and so much more. Go to www.cafepress.com/uncalledforpod. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.
Snowed in 2020, sir. Stories piling by the door. This podcast is uncalled for, but that's what we're here for. Snowed in, lean close, let it pour. By the heater, mugs leaving rings, laugh at the weather, talk about everything. Snowed in 2026, stories piling by the door. This podcast is uncalled for, but that's what we're here for. Snowed in, lean close, let it pour. Snowed in 2026, stories piling by the door. This podcast is uncalled for, but that's what we're